Hi guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making some Valentine's Day cards using the January 2022 card kit of the month from Spellbinders. I'll have links to all of the products I'm using today in the video description below for your convenience. Based on all of those fun comments that I got not too long ago on that haul video for my club kits of the month for this month, I know a lot of you guys have been looking forward to seeing what I create using the card kit of the month. Well, I'm pulling all the stuff back out of the box and I'm going to start putting a couple of cool little cards together. Probably the most time consuming bit of all of this is pulling it all out, sorting through everything, and then trying to decide what do you want to use with what, because everything coordinates so well. And then, of course, figuring out some kind of a card design to go with it. So let's go ahead and get started making a couple of cards. A couple of nights ago, I did go through everything and mostly sorted everything out. I did separate the sentiments from all the rest of the ephemera because there are just so many ephemera pieces. And there's 2 of every single little die cut piece. So I'm going back through a bunch of that and kind of spreading them all out so I can see what I've got. That's kind of a tough thing to do with this kit because there's so much stuff. And then I'm going to decide what kind of card I want to make first. Now, I think these little cards are just too cute, so I picked out those and a sentiment that's got a detachable frame I thought would be pretty cool. And now I'm just going through some of the paper pack to see what's going to match. Now, what I'm trying to do with this is to use almost nothing that's not in the kit. There's so much in here, there's no way I'm going to use it all up if I start pulling from the rest of my stash, because you guys know how much I've got over there. So what I'm doing now is cutting out a couple of card panels. This is going to be a 5" by 3 3/4, and I'm doing out of both of those pattern papers, so they're basically interchangeable. I'm using the extra from one side to basically make this cute little banner that's going to go across the front of my card, and I'm adhering that down with a tape runner. Then I'm getting that little frame that comes with the sentiment, and I'm going to go ahead and just glue that down to my card panel using a tape runner. And then I'm popping up the little center sentiment part with some foam tape. Now you could use the foam dots that came in the kit, and that is what I use on the second card, but it works fine even with just some foam tape. Since I want to make sure that the sentiment is on there straight, I added some art glitter glue to the back of my foam tape so that I can have a little bit of wiggle room. That has bailed me out so many times, you just don't know. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere that cute little card down with some art glitter glue as well. Next, I took this little bunch of balloons because they match so perfectly, as does everything else in the kit, of course, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down tucked under the sentiment. As I keep saying, and I know I'm saying it a lot, everything is perfectly coordinated in this kit. My only problem is that there's not really much contrast. So I grabbed out a piece of dark pink cardstock to be my matting layer, and I'm going to adhere all of that down to the card base. Oh my goodness, this is just so precious. Then to give those little balloons some shine, I'm using some glossy accents. And I don't use this that often, and this bottle has gotten quite a bit clogged, and I finally got it unclogged. So I'm hoping to use it up a bit more, and then I can get some new ones, because this is a little bit thick. So if it doesn't look like it's going on there quite right, it does turn out okay at the end once it's dry. But yeah, if you let your stuff sit, your supplies are meant to be used. If you let them sit for too long, they can clump up a bit. So here's a quick look at those first 2 cards using that card design. I just love the way that they turned out. So for the second cards, I went ahead and went into that pattern paper pack and grabbed out a couple of colors that I thought would go well together. And this time I'm going to use the the little flag dies that come in the set. So I'm going ahead and cutting out 2 flags. These kind of nestle together and stack on top of each other pretty well, and I'm doing them in 2 different colors. I'm going to go ahead and die cut these guys out and run them through my new Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Okay, these colors are so similar that I had trouble deciding, do I leave them as they are, or do I need to put something else behind the front tag so that you could see the words? Finally, I decided on using a leftover scrap from my previous 2 cards, this pink, because I thought you might be able to see it a little bit better through that green, so you'd have pink letters and a green tag. So I'm going to go ahead and run that solid tag shape through my die cutting machine. Now this is one where I just had the letters in the same piece. It's because the letters are interchangeable. There's 2 dies for that with 2 different sentiment sayings. So now I'm going to go ahead and adhere that sentiment piece down on top of the pink piece that I just did. So now you can see a little bit of the pink and the foil through that. And then I'm going to attach that to the other tag, the larger one, using some foam tape. So that means that this little sentiment part is going to pop up just a little bit above that little tag. So I tested that little tag against a bunch of the different pattern papers that I already had out, and now I'm going through that pattern paper pack to see what I think will work well with it on there too. And I guess that's probably one of the reasons I don't use pattern paper all that much, is because I have trouble figuring out how to get enough contrast, because these are some lovely papers, but I think my typical style would have me using them more as accents instead of as basically trying to stick to the kit. And that's what I'm trying to do with this. Doesn't quite work out that way. I do have to pull a little bit of stuff from outside and then try something different on this one. For this card, I thought that those patterns were just a little bit too much, so I am going to go ahead and use the white space on the card base to help basically break up that pattern. So I'm using one of the strips off of a pattern paper piece. It is such an adorable piece of paper with all those cute little Happy Mail envelopes. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as the main color strip on my card. Next, to add a little bit more color and shine, I'm adding some little hearts from my little Target sequin sash that I use on so many cards. I'm using a few of those and putting them across on the card, kind of in a diagonal pattern. And then I'm going to trim off that little bit of excess pattern paper from the top. To finish off the card, I also added one of the little glitter sentiment flags to the top of each of the cards. For my third pair of cards, I'm using a technique that I very rarely do, but I think works perfectly for this pattern paper pack. Say that 3 times fast. I'm using all of my excess, all the spare pieces that I had left over from those pages that I had already used, and I'm cutting some quarter inch, yes, I think it was 1/4 inch strips. No, these are 1/2 inch strips, never mind. I am basically cutting 1/2 inch strips out of each of those, and then I am going to create my own striped pattern paper. To turn it into pattern paper, I'm using something else that I've got in my stash that I very rarely use, and I tend to forget that it's there, and that is some large double-sided adhesive. Now this is some from scrapbook.com. There are a lot of places that you can get double-sided adhesive sheets, and this is going to work perfect for this piece of cardstock. So I've got an 8.5 by 5.5 inch strip of cardstock. So it's half of an A2 size sheet, and I went ahead and used one of the pages from my scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive sheets. And now I'm going to just cut that down into 2 A2 size card panels, and then I'm going to add all of my little strips to the front of one of the panels. Now, one thing I'm trying to do is not have too much scraps to throw away. I want to use what I've got here, right? So I am starting off each of those little diagonal lines up near the top with the end of it being close to the end. And then I'm going to be able to trim off all the excess and have some extra pieces to use, right? And I'm kind of just alternating colors here. I've got a blue-green strip, then that one with all of the envelopes, and then the XOXO, and then back to again with the blue-green in the middle of each, and then back to the other pieces. Now there are some that didn't quite line up perfectly, and if you have any adhesive showing when you do one of these, you can do like I'm doing here and try to fix it. Or you can use some anti-static powder, and that should remove the sticky between the little pieces. Or you could intentionally leave a little space there and add glitter or something, or foil or whatever, something that you would like to have it adhere to. Now you probably noticed that I didn't go all the way down to the end, and that's because I ran out of strips. So now I'm just cutting the excess off, so now I've got some to work with to add on to those little ends. Now I love having my little bit of white space, so I am trimming this down a little bit. So it's going to be about 4 by 5 1/4, and that should leave me that little white strip right around the edges onto my card base. Now I'm picking out a couple of pieces to go on the front. I mean, I need my focal point and sentiment, right? So this little bag has got some sentiments in it, and I think that this one that says "You Make Me Smile" looks so darn cute. But when I put it on here, it kind of looks like everything is getting lost. I don't really want it to get lost like that, so I'm gonna do something a little creative here. So this is where I'm getting out those pop dots. Now having this raised, having this little circle with a heart raised isn't going to add any color to kind of differentiate between everything, but that little bit of height is going to add a little bit more dimension. So I'm just adding some of those little foam squares on the back, and then I'm going to put it in the center of this floral wreath. I was going to do this with a portrait view, and then decided, you know, I think having it horizontal is going to be a lot better and give me a lot more space. I'd also use the tape that's in the kit on the back of that floral wreath, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere it down after I remove all of the release paper. You may have noticed that there was some extra left on that little sheet of pop dots that didn't include the dots, so I'm using that piece. Don't throw anything away, guys. I'm using that to adhere my sentiment down, so that just looks so cute. But of course, I think it needs a little bit more. Now these little butterflies that I'm adding on here were actually some that I put into a separate bag. The way I separated all the ephemera out was one part was for the sentiments, one part was for smaller ephemera, and one for larger. And the butterflies just work perfect. Okay, sometimes I don't know when to stop, and to be honest, I really wanted to try out the cute little sequins that they added. These are some like iridescent white, and it pulls all the colors from all of the different papers. It's just so pretty. These have got some pink and some blue mixed in, and I think that they just worked so well as an accent to all 3 different card designs. So I am adding those little guys across each of those pretty cards. So now I've got 6 new cards that I've already created, and I have barely touched that kit. It is just so much fun. Now if you want to see some more card videos where I use some amazing Spellbinders product, check out my Spellbinders playlist here. You guys have a wonderful day, and remember, if I can make it, you can too.